And we're live.
Hey
Yeah.
everyone.
Hello.
Yay.
Niggers.
Well, this stream's never gonna get monetized
Yeah,
ever.
it wasn't monetized anyway, so it doesn't matter.
True, I never monetize my crap anyway. If you see an ad on my video, it's because it got copyright stricken.
Or it was an accident.
Or I'm actually surprised that accidents like that occur. But anyways, yeah, welcome to the show. Sorry we couldn't do a Friday show. Me and Esso were very busy, and we just kept putting it off and putting it off until, yeah, well, we're doing this stream today, so yeah, all sorts of stuff is really going on. But first, Esso, on your server, you were talking before about how immortality will cause people to develop more K-selected behaviors. For those of you who are unaware, K-selected is a reproductive strategy where parents put more effort into rearing their children compared to
Actually, yeah, they put more effort into it, and there are fewer offspring produced, and that's a result of the existence of that specific uh, person and the availability of resources being incredibly high, which basically creatures which have more K-selective breeding strategies don't worry as much about their mortality and have
You mean are
a
selected?
high. No, I'm talking about K-selective, and they have a type 1 or 2 survivorship curve, so they're more likely to survive. And if you are literally biologically immortal, then you cannot be, you cannot have, you literally cannot have less risk to your mortality. And so I think that if you had you had such a high standard of living, because, well, obviously this sort of technology wouldn't exist with a state, and that's the point that I was making in this discussion in my Discord server. You would necessarily have a society that has fewer actual, babies being made, and that's a big part of the reason why there's never been a Malthusian catastrophe in the past. But yeah, the point that I was making in my server is that we were talking about medicine in relation to the welfare state and how the government is disincentivized from actually making advances in medical technology. And what I was pointing out is that welfare systems are essentially made to where if the population expands, the state has less stability with these programs. So welfare systems have to be designed with the base assumption that the population is going to expand, there will be new people put into the gene pool, and that the older members who contribute to the welfare system will die at some point. And immortality throws a wrench into the whole system.
One thought I've been having is that if people are continuously getting older with no possibility of dying through old age, then they can effectively be working indefinitely, and their value that they could provide to the economy because they would be accumulating skills would continually increase. And
That's why resources would be more abundant despite a population which is not necessarily stagnant but is growing at a slower rate, because there would be more people necessarily who are able to produce. The ones that don't produce are presumably the ones who choose not to be immortal, and they would just die off anyway.
my thinking is that the pyramid scheme that is the taxation welfare warfare state relies on the young paying taxes to the old. In addition to the old paying taxes on the young, the old paying taxes to the young in the form of government schools and child welfare programs such as S chip. I don't know Actually, I don't think that S chip really costs that much, but I know that Social Security, which is the young paying taxes into the old, consumes like 1/3 of the United States' entire federal budget just by itself. So I'm a little unsure as to what extent a tax base being able to effectively work indefinitely is really going to starve the state of resources.
I got kicked from the call. I'm sorry.
Um,
Why'd you get kicked from the call?
Because
I
I'm on mobile and I started watching a YouTube video, like on the KKK stream,
ah
and it just kicked
Welcome
me
back.
out.
well, welcome back. Yeah, I didn't kick you.
Okay.
No, I didn't say any of you kicked me. I said the.
Yeah.
Well, here the other problem with that is that if you have an immortal population, then you also necessarily have a more self-reliant population. Because you have a population which essentially has less utility for these sort of welfare services. So that's the other problem with that.
All right, and Heartless Soy Boy gave us $2. He says, "Hello, Eso."
Hello.
Amazing,
Yeah,
intuitive,
it's brilliant.
schematic.
What a nice guy.
But if you have a greater population which is actually working, so if basically everybody, with the exception of a few new people and older people that are choosing to die off, if you have a population which is producing at a greater rate, that also is unsustainable for the state, because the rate at which new innovations are put into the economy are much greater. So the state has to basically just throw money at the economy and see what sticks, because there's not really going to be a clear direction in which the market's going. So it's going to have a very difficult time trying to control the markets.
I love
And so if
spray.
it
I love spray and pray economics. It means that whenever they do actually come up with something that's amazing, the people just point to it and say, "Look, look, see, without the government, there was no possibility of this ever coming into existence."
But yeah, aside from counter economics, the innovations which are created through stateless market activities, I think, is the second biggest threat to the state. So things like biohacking and immortality.
They say
And what
They-
was that?
I was just going to remark that there were two. They say there are two certainties in life: death and taxes. The only reason there's certainty is because we have a coercive monopoly.
Oh yeah, I
Transhumanist
posted,
libertarianism.
Yeah,
Because
I
neither death
posted
nor
a,
taxes has to be a guarantee.
I posted a meme about that earlier last night, that it had a picture of Benjamin Franklin with that quote, like, on top of the frame, and underneath it, it was a trans ball saying "certain LOL."
Okay, you said it's the second biggest threat. What's the first biggest?
Counter economics itself,
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
directly depriving the state of revenue by trading around it.
Speaking of which, that gets us into our first story regarding what the largest largest grocery store chain in the United States is doing. Kroger.
Yeah,
Yeah, me and
Sorry.
Esso were talking about this last night. What Kroger is looking to do is they're going to drop payments. Like, they won't accept Visa cards anymore, because apparently Visa cards have unusually high transaction fees and transactions are unusually slow. Although Visa is the most popular.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Again.
although Visa cards are the most popular cards in the world, or at least in the United States, so this will be disenfranchising a lot of their customers. They clearly regard it as enough of a problem, especially in regards to their goal for lower prices, that they decided to drop it completely, And in its stead, they're currently in talk with a crypto hedge fund manager about getting Bitcoin integrated into the stores and usable as an acceptable medium of payment.
Which, for those of you who don't know, Kroger is the parent company of Fred Meyer. I don't know if you guys have those around there, but and they're also the parent company of like 20, 30 other smaller chains that we don't have where I'm from, but you guys might. So, I mean, you could go ahead and do a quick Google search. The point is that they're basically like one of the biggest supermarket chains next to like Sam's Club or any of the other big ones. I can only really think of Sam's Club, to be honest. But
a reason why this could be viewed as really important is because if this goes well for kosher or Kroger, that's what they're calling it.
Oh, sure.
I'm stupid, okay?
Oh, sure.
Oy vey.
Fucking great.
Yeah, I was trying to remember which one, so I said, you know what, screw it, I'll just do a 50-50 chance on which one. And I said kosher, because I'm retarded.
What
Anyway.
were you saying?
The reason that it's important is because if it keeps going well for Kroger, then what's going to happen is that other companies are going to start accepting it, and so it will be a natural cycle of people seeing that cryptocurrency and decentralization is a better method of achieving prosperity, and it's just more useful in general. So
it's not just that. I was actually talking about this with Filthy last night. It's not really like an ideologically driven choice, and this is what I've been saying for a long time about counter economics, and that's a big part of the reason why it's the most effective means of achieving political change. Because people are not driven to it for ideological reasons. People are driven to it simply because innovations which are made through counter economics can be more profitable and can actually be more beneficial to the average person to trade in than the white markets, than the government-controlled areas of the economy. And it doesn't even really matter if Kroger like chooses to pay taxes to the state, which I mean, it's a 50-50 whether or not that'll even actually be the case, because the company, which for the record, the reason they're even partnering with the company is because they're setting up a payment processor for Bitcoin called the Lightning Network, and they're doing this with a company. I'm trying to find the fucking name of, but Morgan Creek. They're working with Morgan Creek, and one of the people on Twitter working for Morgan Creek even said, in response to this, the revolution is starting. So, like that's their own their own words about it. So clearly, at least one of the parties involved has the idea in mind that people are not going to be paying taxes with a population that has cryptocurrency and most of their money in cryptocurrency. But yeah, that's the other point Filthy and I were also talking about, because Kroger specifically cited that after they implement this, which for the record they're doing this starting April 3rd, they expect the prices of their commodities on sale to be lower as a result of their lower transaction fees and their lacking of association with credit systems, with credit cards. So, if that's the case, not only will more people be using cryptocurrency simply because it's cheaper to buy things, but also other stores will follow relatively quickly.
Which is what I was getting at.
Yeah, it's the fact that they see more profit to be made here than with the credit cards.
Oh yeah, and by the way,
not to mention their buying power is,
of course, and
a lot better.
Heartless Soy Boy donates $2. He says, "Hello, Atomic."
Hola, amigo. Bonjour.
Yes.
So you also mentioned that one of the reasons they're doing this is because of something called the Lightning Network. What is that?
Eso just said it. It's a payment processor. I
Well, I
imagine
understood that much.
one thing I do know about is that Bitcoin's own transaction times and fees are notoriously subpar, especially when compared to other crypto networks. So this tells me one of two things. Either the Lightning processor is amazing and is able to circumvent this problem, which is, of course, a revolution in and of itself, or two, that the wait times and the transaction fees of Bitcoin are so small in comparison to a mainstream card vendor like Visa that Kroger wants to use them instead, which only tells you like just how powerful Bitcoin really is becoming.
Well, we've already seen the influence that it has in the market. I mean, a lot of people treat it like it's a somewhat countercultural thing still, like anti-establishment. But in reality, there are more daily transactions occurring with Bitcoin alone than with MasterCard. So we were reporting on that a few months ago. So that's another big part of the reason why Kroger could be looking to implement Bitcoin systems and private encrypted ledgers is because there's an increasing amount of the population which is actually trading with it.
And I also had another thought. This is only from anecdotal evidence, but it's very consistent in what we've heard, and that is that farmers are using cryptocurrency in large amounts. Like,
well, no, we have some evidence to point it out, but that we were mentioning on some of our earlier streams. We had some news stories that we were reporting on way back then, but yeah, I mean, I know as a matter of fact, like in my area, I live in like sort of a farming city, if that makes any sense. It's a city, but yeah, a lot of the like I'd say about 25-30% of the neighborhoods around here have at least one house where there are like some cows or horses like fenced in their yard. So yeah, a big part of the commerce around here is agriculture, which was affected quite a bit by Trump's tariffs last summer. So I began to notice that farmers markets were starting to trade in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and Litecoin primarily, and we have there's only one Bitcoin ATM around here, not coin share machines, but like one of I don't remember exactly what type of ATM it is, but it's one of those ones that actually has Bitcoin like explicitly advertised, and there's only one in the entire area, and it's in a farming suburb like 10 miles outside of town. So that shows you the people that are using it the most, at least around here.
I'm assuming. Have you been to it? Is it crowded? I bet it's crowded.
It's outside of like it's outside of a convenience store, and yeah, there's always people there. But it's very weird. Like it's one of those convenience stores which it's not in like a strip mall or next to any big stores. It's just like it's one of those that's off the highway, and there's nothing but fields and neighborhoods around it, and just sitting like next to the ice machine there's a Bitcoin ATM. It's the most surreal thing, but it's pretty cool at the same time.
Well,
yeah, that's going to be a regular occurrence when the state falls.
My thinking is that part of the motivation for wanting to get into Bitcoin and the reason for Kroger to want to seek these people out specifically, which is, I don't have any proof of this, it's just what I think happened, is that they have such a large number of partners in the agricultural industry who are transacting in Bitcoin that they thought that it would be easier to just start using Bitcoin themselves. More importantly, because they're going to be receiving Bitcoin from customers, it means that they have to spend it somewhere. They're going to want to buy inventory from other farmers who are using Bitcoin, or they're going to want to pay repair people using Bitcoin. This is going to ripple outwards, and not just in the sense that they're going to be able to just severely outcompete other stores who are no doubt going to adopt it themselves. I think it's going to touch a whole lot of other industries in ways that I don't even think we can anticipate. But the most important aspect, in my opinion, is that when the everything bubble pops and we enter World Depression 2, people are going to find other commodities to transact in, not because they have any ideological reason to, but just simply because, as SO said, this is what they need to do out of necessity. And if we already have an infrastructure in place where people can transact in crypto, then that makes the transition from a fiat currency into a cryptocurrency a lot easier, a lot smoother, which I'm going to be completely honest is pretty much the entirety of my anxiety in terms of the future. How smooth will the transition be?
Well, if this happens before the market crashes, which, I mean, hopefully it does, I mean, it really won't even be a catastrophic depression. It will be for the white markets, you know, the corporatists, the money lenders, and the state-run industry. But for the majority of the population trading in cryptocurrency and can simply produce their own commodities and trade among themselves in peer-to-peer associations, it really is not going to be that big of a deal. I mean, it'll definitely be felt for sure, but yeah, it wouldn't be even half as bad as it would have been if cryptocurrency hadn't been there.
And unlike in the first Great Depression, the government will have no idea who has cryptocurrency and where, and will pretty much rely entirely on propaganda to get what they want.
What they're doing now, which I have a video that should be up tomorrow, going over this. It's kind of funny. There's an actual article that was posted on on Medium, not Minds, so a mainstream media outlet, but it's a online publication. And I shit you not, the title of this article is "Bitcoin was given to us by aliens." That's fucking. I mean, we're already at the point where the state's losing their mind, and they're basically just saying anything that they possibly can to try and scare people over it, to the point where they're now becoming the ancient aliens guy, unironically.
Now, what's interesting about that article is that I've been meaning to do a video about, like, oh, but what if aliens attacked? We need the state to protect us from aliens. And I was thinking, like, if there's aliens that approach our planet and visit our civilization, what they're going to want to do is tell us how to eliminate the state, how to dismantle it. And if I were an alien and I were approaching a if I were like a space age civilization with gravitic engines, fusion generators, Dyson spheres, all that fun stuff, and I approach a civilization that's like in the information age, and I wanted to not interfere too much, but I wanted to help them dismantle the state, the thing I would do is teach them how to make cryptocurrency.
Yeah, no civilization which would have the type of technologies that we think of as like alien civilizations that would be able to actually travel to Earth freely. No, none of them would have fucking a government, because that sort of technology would be immensely destabilizing for any state that tried to form. Just assuming that they didn't have any sort of cryptocurrency-like system of trade, just the fact that they can travel so freely like that alone, if like just assuming here that there even are aliens, which that's a different debate for a different time. Uh, like just the way that they're able to travel like that, that would alone suggest that there's no state.
Of course. I simply can't imagine that there would be such a thing as like evil invading aliens. Like, why would they want to come here? Why would they want to attack us? And why would they want to implement? Even if they weren't malevolent, why would they implement a what's it called, a prime directive? That makes about as much sense as having a cure for cancer and withholding it
Well,
because you just want other people to figure it out.
yeah, the aliens invading narrative. It's the root assumption behind it all is the Hobbesian state of nature, which as we've demonstrated quite thoroughly, I think is fundamentally flawed. So
Maybe
Yeah,
that's
unless the guy.
maybe
Sorry, go ahead.
maybe that's why the media is full of these evil alien invasion stories because they want us to just assume that there's no escape from the government.
The only thing that could provoke the aliens into attacking us instead of trading would be a government.
Pretty much. And at that point, they would just go out of their way to just be like, yeah, the government dies. Literally nothing else does.
They'd be doing us a favor.
Exactly. It
And-
would
and
actually be
even then-
liberation.
yeah, and even then, you assume that the aliens would attack people other than the government, even though the other people have literally nothing to do with what the state did to them. So.
Yeah. Also, Heartless Soy Boy sent another $2. He says, "Fuck public schools."
Indeed, fuck public schools.
I agree
Yeah,
completely.
as someone going to public school, I completely agree.
And I'm somebody who, in my last year of high school, got expelled from public school and had to get my degree through private tutoring. And I got expelled because basically I was pro gun rights. I was statist at that time, so I would have characterized it as pro Second Amendment. That's seriously the reason why I got booted out of school, and I had to finish up in private tutoring. I'm technically a valedictorian because no joke, I got expelled in November, and I finished up within the next month before the end of the first semester. So
Yeah, why don't we have a education
I
system
can-
that's just private tutoring?
yeah, I can
Well,
tell
that's
you.
what I'm gonna do. I'm basically just gonna do homeschooling for all of
My point
rest
is
of my
that from experience, I can tell you that I had like a much better time in private tutoring, and I actually got a lot more done in private tutoring. So
almost like private tutoring is better than education.
like even though the program I went through had a had the government's curriculum model, it still is a lot more efficient and a lot better. So
It's because the teachers are instructed to indoctrinate you, not teach you.
Weird what happens when the government's not in charge of teaching teachers.
How weird.
Huh.
It's like teachers act in their interests or something.
Yeah, where the hell is Azer? We need him to tell us more about why he's no longer looking into doing teaching.
He was looking into doing teaching.
Yes.
Can't say I respect him a lot more.
I mean, I warned him that's like, it's bad enough for students, but for teachers, it's like, I hear stories all the time about how it's just like a soul grinding, depressing, like destructive environment for teachers who more often quit after their first year because one, they're not allowed to teach, two, they're being forced to teach to the test, and three, it's just like they can't do anything. If they want to deviate, if they want to come up with a system that's more efficient, if they want to spend more time with students, nope. You got to go through our bureaucracy, our processes, and it's just,
Not to mention kids are kind of pieces of crap
oh yeah, definitely.
in my experience.
Yeah, and no offense
Mine
to
as
you,
well.
of course, but when people,
Oh,
when
believe
teachers
me.
talk about that and why they quit schooling, that's like the bottom of their list. They could care less. It's the fact that like their fellow teachers are so toxic. There are obviously incompetent and even abusive teachers who are hailed as just like the greatest heroes in the staff. It's just absolutely horrific.
Yeah, seriously though, I don't take that as an insult because it's actually true.
And that's all
Like
putting
that,
aside the fact that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Iso.
like that time in sixth grade where I got disciplined for getting up and being disciplined. By disciplined, I mean they had this system in my school called a step system, which I don't know if like everybody has that, which is why I refer to it as discipline. But basically, you have like a point score that you have for each class based on certain behaviors, and if you get below a certain point, then you'd basically get suspended from school. My school had that, and I was getting put on step one, so basically being, you know, put into a chair in the corner. This was sixth grade, so that's the sort of shit that happened at that time. And then I got up just to go to the corner, and then I got step two. So just for getting up and trying to go to step one, and I seriously didn't even do anything.
That teacher must have really disliked you.
Yeah,
Oh, I know a bunch of teachers that don't like me
Which
on
is
that
weird.
topic.
I've I've had the opposite experience. I've had a bunch of like teachers that really liked me. I don't know why. I just seem to have this ability to get along with people. But
It's because you're such a likable guy.
oh, thank you.
I had that. I had that experience in high school. It's really weird because people say that middle school is good, but high school sucks. I had pretty much the opposite experience. The middle
Whoever
school I
says
went,
that has
the
never
middle
went to
school,
school before.
the middle school I went to was fucking absolute ghetto trash, and the teachers were absolute fucking assholes. But the high school I went to, everybody at the school was. I mean, I was one of those. In real life, I'm one of those people who's just really easygoing. So naturally, I didn't really have any issues with anybody. And the teachers, for the most part, I didn't have any. Even the ones which everybody else said were dicks, I didn't have any issues with them. So
Yeah, whoever said that high school is worse than middle school has never went to school. Period.
I've had an
Because
continue.
because 7th grade was probably the worst year of my life in general, just in school years.
sixth was mine.
I had the opposite problem. I mean, the worst school years for me were actually elementary school. I mean, in
Oh,
fairness,
I can.
in fairness to my fourth and fifth, in fairness to my current self, my fourth and fifth grade self was a bitch. But that it for me at the time, it sucked. And there was that one day I had a seizure during recess on blackboard.
Was it one of
Yeah,
those fun seizures where you got to flop around like a fish, or was it one of those boring seizures where you just like lay down and foam?
I got to flop around. Only problem
Oh
is
yeah.
I was on blacktop.
Oh,
I was
But-
forcibly compelled to rub my skin against concrete. I was
All
begging
right.
people.
That must have been
like,
fun when you woke up.
it was like agonizing. I was just like I was trying to beg people. It's like pick me up, get me off this friggin' rock. Get me like stop me
but-
from scraping myself constantly.
Yeah, for middle school, seventh grade for me wasn't too terrible, but eighth grade, I think eighth grade was like the worst, probably like next to sixth grade, and that's because I was basically at that point just doing anything that I could to get suspended from school. That's how much I hated it, and I did that to the point where I had a similar experience to my senior year of high school, where I got expelled completely and had to finish my 8th grade year in private tutoring. And again, it was better. But except what I did in eighth grade to get expelled was actually pretty fucking hilarious. I haven't told this fucking story anywhere, but it's fucking awesome.
Well, someone in the comments did say it best. It's story time, so by all means, please continue.
So there, I was, I don't remember exactly what period this was. I think it was the third period, but I was just having, like, it was one of those class periods where there wasn't really work going on, like people were just on the computer, and I mean, this was partly just me trying to get suspended, but also because I was trying to do something hilarious for like my friends in class. And there was this girl who I'm not gonna name drop, but she was basically being a bitch to everybody that day, and she was black. So at the end of the class periods in this school, like I mentioned previously, there is a step system, is what they called it. But they also made it so if somebody else did something you think they should have points you taken off for, it's based entirely on if you think, and the teacher agreed, you could have points taken off of somebody else's score for that class. And so at the end of the class, when they were naming this point system, I rose my hand and said, yeah, I have a concern on her because she's black.
Whoa.
I kid you not.
Happened to me.
I fucking got expelled right there. It was so funny. I don't regret it. I don't regret that even a little bit.
I wouldn't either. Well played.
I had a feeling it was going there, but the reveal was still glorious.
I kind of wondered because you specifically mentioned that she was black, so it must have had something to do with that.
I was kind of hoping you were going to say because she's a negress.
Well, that's the funny thing, because when I was taken down to the principals, what I said specifically was because she's black. But they fucking must have really wanted me gone, because the teacher told the principal that I actually did say the N-word, but I didn't. So, I mean, they fucking, at that point, they must have wanted me gone as badly as I wanted to be out of there, so...
Oh yeah. By the way, this reminds me of another story. I don't know what it was, but it's like, in my school years, while I did get along with people generally, at some point, like, I was generally like an angry person. Like, I wasn't like fighting, like going on my way to fight people or anything, but I would just like hold on to resentment, like carrying grudges, all that stuff. Which, of course, is a lot of fun, especially for your mental health. But anyways, so towards the end of the year, I don't remember the exact circumstances. I'm pretty sure I just it would have been the end of the year. I just or close to the end of the year, and I would have just snapped at someone, probably a teacher. And as a result, they sent me to something called in-school suspension, which is just this room with a bunch of the other trouble students that they lock you in for the entire school year. And then they give you your schoolwork without any teacher instruction, they would also give you the books, and you're basically expected to do all the work on your own. It took me 2 hours to do it all, out of like an 8-hour day.
I had a similar experience, but, I mean, unless you had more to go on about this, should we move on to the other stories?
Oh, wait.
We have some other stories.
Can I talk about one story?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. You can go ahead.
So, this was when esoteric entity got me suspended from school.
Oh, shit.
What?
Yeah.
Alright, so
Yeah, let him tell
on
it.
this one particular day, I was stupid and decided to have my phone on and to have Discord open at the same time. And then Esso typed in one of those messages which talks, it actually
text
does
to
a
speech.
vocal thing, yeah.
TTS.
Yeah, all in the middle of class too. Everything went silent, and then I hear a bunch of N bombs and F bombs, and I'm sitting here like, oh shit. And then
I saw that happen.
Yeah.
everyone's looking at me like, and I'm sitting here like, sorry, and the teacher looks at me all angry. Yeah.
Let me see if
I had
can-
some fun explaining that to my parents.
Let me try and find the message on here. Oh yeah, I found it. Fuck public school. Public school is a tool of indoctrination created by the government designed to destroy critical thinking. Nigger, nigger, nigger. And at the very end of the message, at the very end it says, "Suspend me, daddy."
Well played.
Every black kid in that class, when it started saying nigger, 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 looked at me with angry eyes. I was just sitting there, hi.
Oh, that's amazing.
I was sitting there face palming the whole time.
I got you a couple days off school though, so
yeah, I was pretty happy about that. Although I wasn't happy when I came back, and everyone was eyeballing me the entire class period.
I want to think that the teacher was only looking angry at you because she was trying way too hard to hide the fact that she wanted to laugh. She was trying too hard not to laugh.
I would disagree. She looked at me as if she was about to kill me.
Fair enough, but this is just me being hopeful. That is amazing though. Yeah, anyways, the stream is titled India and Pakistan, so I think we do have to talk about that. There's stuff going on every other day that it's actually really difficult to keep track of. I think last week, it was Pakistan that shot down an Indian plane. They recovered the pilots, and that was a source of contention. Pakistan released the Indian pilot without any preconditions, and now I believe one country's navy is attacking another submarine. I don't remember the exact details.
It's a bunch of illegitimate monopolies on arbitration fighting over other illegitimate land that they would take, which would become illegitimate as soon as they take it.
Pretty much.
Basically, a Pakistani pilot flew over India, got shot down, and so they essentially were provoking India. The submarine thing, that's new to me. But yeah, I first heard that and I realized, and I thought immediately, okay, so this is probably one of the OPEC countries. I think we all know which one, but they'll remain unnamed for the time. Oh, fuck, who am I kidding? It's probably the U.S. trying to get one of one of their allies, so Pakistan, to provoke one of the countries which is leaving OPEC or trying to leave OPEC by rejecting the U.S. dollar for their petro trade.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, as that was being explained, I was thinking of the that other instance where a ship had gone into Russian territory and was told repeatedly to stop, but they did it anyway.
I'm gonna be muted for like a minute or two. Give me a second.
All right.
Roger.
So.
Hey, I'm finally able to talk now.
One of the things that I remember from about this conflict is someone pointed out in the chat, yeah, they have been at each other for a long time, largely over a region between their border called Kashmir. I don't remember what the exact details are, but I do know that Pakistan and India were once one country, and Pakistan declared its independence. However, the two both claim to have control and sovereignty over the region of Kashmir, and as a result,
They-
like they've had a border dispute that's going on to this day. And this
They
was,
later.
and this goes back to I think the British or India as a British colony. So this goes back
Yeah.
quite a few decades. But what makes things
Yeah.
interesting now, and the reason that it's on the news now, is because recently India stopped trading in stopped trading in oil with petrodollars and is
Well,
now
that's not
using
re-
the.
Yeah, that's not what they're meant. That's not what they were mentioning on the news. They were but yeah, the timing is incredibly convenient, and disputes like these happen in foreign countries all the time and are never reported on. But yeah, just this one happens to be in the news. The India, and that's the thing. The India is being painted as the aggressor in this situation, not Pakistan, which is provoking them by flying their planes over India's airspace, which, according to both of them, would be illegal. That's not a provocation. No, India shooting down Pakistan's plane. That's the provocation.
Oh, definitely.
It's like when they said that Libya was at fault when they, started invading them and overthrowing stuff.
But yeah, it's the way that the narrative is being painted, the timing, which like India basically dropped the U.S. for petro trade like a month ago. So it's all of these factors leads me to believe that this is a result of India trying to stop trade in the U.S. in the petro market with U.S. dollars, and this is essentially the U.S. trying to slowly move the Overton window towards trying to justify military action towards India.
Democracy.
Which, of course, it makes sense that unlike China, which has a gigantic military and could actually defend itself, as does Russia, both of which have nuclear weapons, India is less prosperous, and although it has an overwhelmingly massive population, it's not quite as powerful. So, naturally, the US is probably looking to bring democracy to India, which is, of course, absolutely hilarious, because the last time that they did that, it resulted in mass starvation and murder. Well, last time that the West tried
the last time they've done that anywhere, that's what happened.
Pretty much.
Happening in the areas where they're currently trying to do that, like Venezuela.
Oh yeah, and usually America's MO in regards to invading countries is first they're going to try sanctions and embargoes. So keep a watch for that. They'll try to come up with something to justify some sort of sanctions against India, and of course it's going to result in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of deaths. Let's keep in mind that, well, India has an overwhelmingly massive population, much of which is horrifically impoverished, and of course the extent of the casualties is never going to be reported on the media. Neither is the connection between why this is suddenly appearing on the news now, even though these kind of provocations and back and forths have been going on for decades. No one in the mainstream media is going to make the connection, and of course they don't want to, because, well, it's not in their interest for the plebs to know.
I just was looking up India sanctions, and this is probably even. Apparently, Venezuela is turning to India for oil exports because of the U.S.'s sanctions on Venezuela.
Interesting. So you have another major. India has a massively growing economy, and of course, because of their enormous population, it's going to be massive. So they're probably going to be a huge oil consumer. Venezuela becoming a huge supplier is going to be incredibly important for them, especially since that because India will no longer be using petrodollars, you have Maduro, which is already disinclined from using petrodollars to do so. This is going to be very, very interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how soon it'll be before we start seeing more on India, but that's clearly what they're trying to do here.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Captain Pipsqueak donated $10. Thank you a lot for that. He says, it actually goes all the way back to when India was ruled by the Mughal Turks and the Maratha rebellion against them that ended when Britain colonized everything and the Mughal Empire collapsed.
Talking about the Kashmir dispute, I assume.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't really done much. I'm sorry, I haven't done much research into the India-Pakistan situation, so this information is not known to me. But still, thank you for that.
Apparently, yeah, the UAE, which I've mentioned this before, they also dropped the U.S. dollar for petro trade. But that's going to be very interesting how the U.S. attempts to handle the UAE because, for one thing, the UAE has close ties with Saudi Arabia. Like they're basically a large part of Saudi Arabia's economic growth, like a large part of the reason behind that. But also, just generally, the UAE is like the major center of commerce for that entire Gulf region. So, like, just the entire country.
Huh.
So, like, it'll be very interesting to see how the U.S. will handle that. And they're going to have to do something, obviously, because if they don't, that's going to be a major hit to the U.S. dollar since the UAE is such a giant economy. Well, I mean, they're not necessarily a world power, but a lot of trade happens in Dubai.
Yeah.
So.
Also, one other thing, this is kind of important. We got a super chat for $200 from Wix the Biker.
Bro.
I am.
Excuse me.
Yeah. He says, if you could put this money in a cash pool as prize for the FNet developers, that would be great. I really appreciate what everyone in this community does for defending the rights of the individual and finding solutions to circumvent the state. Much love.
What a cool guy.
I actually hate myself.
Well, I'll definitely go to the internet development team because the FNet project, as mentioned in that video I uploaded on Christmas Eve, it's been sort of splintered into two different development teams which work together. There are people working on the network, so actually connecting to FNet and operating without an internet service provider. And there are the people developing the website and the cryptocurrency, which will enable the websites to function without a host. So, yeah, this will be immensely helpful because that's something which has been happening lately. We've been running into issues with developers entering the project, and a lot of them are in college, so they've got, I'd say this is probably, in the long run, one of the most important things going on right now, the development of a decentralized network. But, I mean, personally, I could see where someone would think college and actually getting a career for themselves is more important for their financial futures.
Of course.
But yes, thank you. Thank you for the $200. That's going to help quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'll personally make sure
Jesus
that goes.
Christ.
I'll make sure that goes straight to the developers.
And for anybody else who's watching, yeah, we're sort of haven't really been talking about it lately, but I've been looking to mention it. But yeah, we've been having, I guess I'll characterize it as trouble with incentives. So if you guys, support the FNet project and you want to donate, that would be immensely helpful.
I gotta. Yeah, there's one issue though.
But
I'm a noob at computers and I want to be able to install FNet, but I can't.
well, the
Well,
current
I look
iteration,
at the coding and I'm like, what the
Yeah,
fuck
the current
is this shit?
iteration is not very user friendly, but that's the reason why there's even still a network team working on it, because we're creating a finished model, which, I mean, it'll be as easy to install as like an exe file, basically.
Alright, I can work with that.
yeah, it should be very simple. At least
All
that's
the
the
mods that
idea.
I've put on Battlefront 2.
It should be easier than putting mods on Battlefront 2. Ideally, it should
I
be just
hope
like
so, because some of those mods are pieces of crap and they don't work.
I guess so.
That the same could be said with any game, really.
Well,
That's true.
yeah. Have you ever tried playing Skyrim with like 100 mods?
Absolutely, yes, yes, I have.
That's always a lot of fun.
So, it tells me to put the add-on in the add-on folder and then put it in game data. Alright, I did that. Launches the game. Oh wow, it doesn't fucking work.
Oh look, the animations are all broken. This is fantastic.
And you
Do you
gotta let
have,
the crash the desktop.
Do you have version 1.1.3 installed?
Yeah, it doesn't,
Because
it still doesn't
mods-
work.
Mods only work with that. Okay, I'd have to know what you're doing to help you out, because I install Battlefront mods all the time, and I basically have problems with them to the point where like some of the mods are just not well programmed at all. Or if you have other mods, then some of the mods won't work. But I have generally a high degree of success with them.
Yeah, when I did have mods, my favorite thing to do was to run one of the Coruscant guard mods, and then I would just spawn as Commander Fox and then repeatedly kill myself because I hate that character.
I think everybody hates Commander Fox. In fact, I think Darth Vader killed him several times.
No, he killed him once in a really satisfying way.
I'm pretty sure he's been killed twice by now. But
A
anyways,
person can't be killed twice.
he was. I mean, compared to what's her name, the Jedi Council person.
The
Padme?
the Clone Wars revamped mod's probably the best one, where the mod is it's like planets and the factions are based on the 2003 animated Clone Wars series. That's fucking my favorite mod, probably.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh right, yeah. Her name is Shak T. She's been killed by everyone.
Yeah, seriously.
Let's see.
There's no
Grievous
canon death for her.
Grievous has killed her. Vader has killed her. Starkiller from The Force Unleashed killed her. Who else? Anakin Skywalker killed her, and this is before Darth Vader. So
Some
I'm
freaking
pretty sure
clone
she's
did
been
it.
killed by clones too, and droids, and like she's been killed so many times. It's hard to imagine.
She's like the Kenny of Star Wars.
Exactly.
Anyway, I gotta go.
All right, yeah, we're gonna be wrapping this up very soon anyway. But until then, like we got one last story that probably won't take very much time, but it's still horrific. A new study finds that nearly half of child and adult sex trafficking victims are abused by police.
I'm out.
Yep, good time to jump.
Oh my gosh, I'm so surprised.
Yeah, so a new report from the Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women. So this is the government saying this. So you know it's probably massaged, but still half even from there is pretty fucking bad. The report is titled "Sex Trafficking in Hawaii: The Stories of Survivors," and well, that's pretty much exactly what it finds.
Well,
That sex trafficking victims are half the time abused by police.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you see a lot of people who go into government professions usually because they want to abuse the system in some respects. It's going to be sociopaths who are going to be drawn to who are going to be drawn to, what are they called? Sociopaths are going to be drawn to become politicians. People or murderers are going to become police officers. Child abusers and pedophiles are going to become teachers. I guess if you want to have your way with women and you're just a giant ass pervert, what you do is you become a police officer and go into vice. I mean, what was that statistic a year or so ago? That's like 40% of police officers beat their spouses.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that police officers are basically the school shooters that didn't actually go through with it.
That is the best way to put it.
Yeah, but that's why I chose this story. There's really not much to say. The state is absolutely freaking disgusting, and every time I see a story, either it's like r/pro revenge, and it's like and then the parents were arrested and the students got into foster care, or the students were taken away by police. I'm just thinking, oh god, those kids are probably never going to be the same again. And of course, this is going to be completely hidden from people. But anyways, we should probably wrap this up now.
All right.
Hawk your stuff right now.
I'm Esoteric the Free, and by tomorrow, probably way early in the morning, like 2 or 3 in the morning Pacific, I'll have a new video up.
Excellent. I am currently working on a video as well. I'm not going to go into detail about what it is right now. And Pumpkin, you got something to shill?
Not really, but I did want to mention something on the previous subject that we were discussing.
Sure.
I found it interesting that that there are so many instances of people rejecting the dollar despite knowing that the U.S. is going to have to react to that. I think that shows.
Yeah, the big one recently is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is starting to get, in their words, skeptical of the U.S. dollar, and they're the country holding up OPEC. So if they stop associating with the U.S. dollar, then the U.S. is fucked. So.
Oh yeah. And
but what were you gonna say?
I think that further shows the state of the U.S. dollar and how bad it is. The fact that people are rejecting it despite knowing that retaliation will be occurring afterwards.
Mm-hmm. All right, so thank you all for stopping by. And Winks the Biker, thank you again for $200. I will make sure all of it goes directly to developers. But first I need to figure out how to get money from YouTube. All right, thank you. Thank you again for stopping by. And what were you saying, SO?
It's going probably to your bank, whatever payment processor you set up with YouTube.
All right, I'll have to do some research about that tonight.
But yeah, the payment threshold for what YouTube will actually pay you is by every $100. So you should definitely be getting a check from Google soon.
Is that through the mail or directly into PayPal or bank or whatever it is?
The few times it's ever happened to me, it was through the mail, but that's because that was the payment processor that I set up with Google. If you set up a bank, they'll probably directly deposit it.
All right. Well, I'll have to look up to try to recall what payment processing I set up. But anyways, yeah, thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you on Friday.